Good evening. My name is Andrew Workman, and I'm seated here in our beautiful Peterson RA Resource Room. Now, this time last year, you may have remembered watching this beautiful video of Peterson Hall in Minecraft. I spent probably 15 hours between building, refining, filming, recording, editing, all of that. And so I set the bar pretty high and set pretty lofty expectations for myself that I, to be honest, am not going to live up to. Originally, I had an idea. I was gonna do a well-recorded, well-edited, brilliant gag reel. It was gonna be 5 to 6 minutes long of just my favorite, some of them ridiculous, some of them weird, some of them absurd, but all of them helpful experiences that I've had as an RA. In the last minute or two, I was going to get serious and I was going to talk about how much I appreciate being a part of our Res Life team. And while all of those things are still true, I've loved my experience. I've had so many cool experiences, weird, wacky experiences, and I love being a part of the Res Life team. But to turn in a gag reel of all of the fun stuff would feel disingenuous, especially during a season of my life when fun seems pretty impossible sometimes. And so I think the most genuine thing that I can give you is personal testimony. Personal testimony of how much I love our team, how much I love being on Will's staff in East Pete, and how much I love the 5 other RAs that I work with. That's why I'm an RA. That's why I want to keep being an RA, because of others. To be completely honest, I know you know quite a bit, but you certainly don't know everything. But I'm going to spare the details. The last 3 months of my life have been the worst 3 months of my life. 3 months ago, I was hit with a debilitating wave of anxiety. It wasn't something that was abnormal. Anxious thoughts have popped up. Small depressive episodes have popped up in my life. I didn't think anything of it. I have a family history of depression. My dad has depression. I have 2 sisters that have depression. My paternal grandfather committed suicide. It's everywhere in my family. And so we expected that it would pop up in my life at some point, but we didn't really expect it to be now. And so I didn't think anything of the anxiety at the time, but it kind of persisted. It stayed in the background. It was at the forefront of my mind and everything that I did. It was just always questions. I was uncertain. I was fearful. I was scared. I felt trapped. The last 3 months, last month specifically, I have felt trapped. I've questioned every decision that I've ever made. I've questioned being at the school. I've questioned being an RA. I've questioned even being a follower of Jesus a couple times because of these anxious thoughts. And they subsided for a bit, but they popped up again about a month ago and wrecked me. I didn't know what to do. I felt trapped. But I did feel confident that I could reach out. I felt confident that I could reach out to my RA staff. And so I don't even remember what day of the week it was. One night I typed out this paragraph about how I was really struggling with anxiety, and within minutes, probably 5 minutes, I had heard from every single person in the group chat. I'd heard from Riley, Joy, and Hannah. Isaac, Jared, and Will had all reached out to me individually and wanted to talk. And so over the next week, I talked with those 3 guys, and those conversations were helpful, and let me tell you, it made me feel incredibly loved. Especially during a time when I found that it was impossible to love myself. Truthfully, this semester, I have barely had the energy to roll out of bed in the morning. In 4 weeks, I've only been to 4 or 5 chapels because I just don't have the energy to get out of bed. And I know that you see ICRs, especially high priority ICRs, like, oh yeah, an RA in Peterson named Andrew Workman was suicidal today. That was an ICR that you would have read on January 18th. And that was the day that I considered ending it all. That was also the day that I knew that I needed help. Because it didn't become real to me until I became suicidal, that there was probably a physiological issue that was creating all of this mental and emotional instability. And so I went to see a doctor. I saw a doctor last Friday. It's a doctor that I've known my entire life. He knows me, he knows my family, he knows our history. And on Friday, he diagnosed me with 3 things: general anxiety, depression, and panic disorder. And one of the fun things about anxiety is that when you're battling anxiety, your brain wants to flush out all of the serotonin. And so for most people, that's okay. You can replenish your serotonin levels. But for me, that's not all that possible because I don't produce it effectively and efficiently. So because of these anxious thoughts, we created this imbalance in serotonin. And serotonin is the chemical that makes you be happy. It's the feel-good chemical. It's the one that gets you out of bed in the morning. It's the one that makes you feel accomplished when you do something. It's the one that motivates you to do things. It's the one that you feel when you're in relationships with other people. And I was functioning on 0 for the last several weeks. And that didn't really become apparent to me until the 18th. But let me tell you, the 6 other people in East Peterson, 5 RAs and Will, I've talked with all of them extensively. All of them have been so incredibly patient and loving and kind, and all of them have listened and listened and listened and have poured out of their own cup into mine when I have been unable to give them anything. And so the best testament that I can give, the best testimony that I can give to being an RA is how much I love the people that I serve with. Because in the times that I felt the most lonely, there were times that I didn't really have a sense of God's presence. But they reminded me of it. They reminded me of my sense of God's presence through them, because I could see God working in them. I could see God working in Riley when she sat at the desk next to me and asked me what was wrong. I could see God working in Jared when he offered to buy me food one night and we sat in his car and talked. And I could see God in Will when we cried together, when we realized that my diagnosis was probably legitimate and that I was probably going to be diagnosed with depression. And I don't necessarily think that it's hyperbolic to say that my RA staff may have saved my life. I don't know. I don't know what could have happened on the 18th, but I knew that there were people in my life who I could fall back on, who would catch me. I went to the doctor on Friday. He immediately prescribed me medication because of my symptoms and the family history. And I've only been on medication for 6 days. It doesn't fully kick in for 2 to 3 weeks, but in 6 days, I already feel like myself again. I feel like I'm getting back what I lost, because for the last month, I felt like a zombie. I felt like a ghost. I felt like just an empty shell of a person who was just walking around and doing things. And so praise God for modern medicine, but praise God for community. I thank God every single day for Will, for Jared, for Isaac, for Hannah, for Joy, and for Riley. Thank you.